Franco Ordonez is a White House correspondent for McClatchy News and co-host of McClatchy's Majority Minority podcast. Franco, thanks for being with us. Last week, it was unclear what each side would be willing to agree to, and summit plans fell apart. The president's letter said it was inappropriate. So what has changed between then and now?
What has changed is it's gone back and forth. I mean, there is so much flux. Now, the North Koreans, after that letter, came back saying, hey, we will be more amenable. They talked about more denuclearization. They got Moon, South Korean president, involved. And President Trump, a day later, was saying that, look, maybe we can get this back on track. And then today, they're saying this is expected. So in just 2 weeks, we may have a pretty historic summit.
And Franco, what does the visit then of such a high-ranking North Korean official to the U.S. suggest to you about where this is headed? Does that confirm your sense that this summit is going to happen?
I would not go as far to say that it confirms. I think this will remain in flux until we actually see the two leaders sit down together. I could totally see this continuing to go back and forth. That said, I think this shows that the level of seriousness has risen. Kellyanne Conway pointed out that it's been decades since a North Korean leader at that rank has been on U.S. soil. There are two delegations of Americans going over there. They are obviously actively in the process doing diplomatic roles, doing security roles, trying to set the agenda for this crucial summit. What will come out of it, we'll see.
But what is at stake for the president and the U.S. as this gets ramped up again? I mean, how many times can you build it up and tear it down, potentially?
I think it's a good question. I mean, we shall see. They certainly have built it up and torn it down a few times now. Knowing Trump, that could happen a few more times. Also, knowing Trump, this could be all part of his master plan. Look, what's at stake are a lot of very crucial things. The Trump administration insists that this will involve denuclearization. The idea of denuclearizing this peninsula would be pretty incredible. The possibility down the road of pulling some U.S. troops from the peninsula, or at least changing the role of those troops, more peace in that area. That said, very few believe that North Korea, despite what they have said, that they're really willing to totally denuclearize, considering the work that they put into those nuclear missiles, as well as that being the reason they have gotten this far, and many see as their security.
Yes, a lot of doubt and uncertainty remain, for sure. Now, moving on, today, the Trump administration announced a 25% tariff on $50 billion worth of Chinese goods with so-called industry-significant technology. So what message does this send as the U.S. prepares for another round of trade talks later this week?
I mean, it shows that diplomacy is very complicated, threatening potentially more threats of a trade war. Just after a week ago, Trump was talking about protecting ZTE, a Chinese tech company. It's a fascinating development because many people thought that Trump administration was going to ease off on the throttle on China until after the North Korea summit. China is crucial to those talks. They need China's support. North Korea doesn't do a lot of trade, but a lot of the trade that it does do is with China, so they need that support from China. And to do this is pretty interesting because you got to imagine when you're putting these tariffs on China, it doesn't really make them want to work with us. At the same time, Trump has said we're going to go tough, and it's worked.
Well, frankly, China called the move contrary to the consensus reached between the two sides in Washington not long ago. So, do you think then that our partners have a trust concern when it comes to negotiating with the U.S.? Is that what this is about?
I mean, I think there's definitely levels. I mean, North Korea, China, other leaders have raised those type of questions. And in a way, Trump has used that to his advantage. That uncertainty, that kind of for lack of a better word, insecurity about what he might do. He's been able to use that to his advantage and use it as leverage. I mean, many feel that that's why he got North Korea back to the table so quickly, because of some of the threats that he had made earlier this month if they did not participate. So I think that uncertainty and that kind of like what will he actually do has proven effective in certain ways.
Is this the art of the deal? All right. At the same time, the president is blaming Democrats for his administration's policy separating immigrant parents from children as they come across the border illegally. First, what exactly is the policy under his administration, and is this push to reopen the debate on immigration legislation bringing anyone to the table?
Look, I mean, what's going on here is the DHS, acknowledged that they've lost, about 1,500 unaccompanied children that were identified and taken into custody at the border are no longer accounted for. That speaks to concerns about these individuals. If you talk to Republicans, they feel it shows that even unaccompanied minors will not show up in court hearings, and it shows that they will not participate in the system, and you cannot trust them. On the other hand, it shows from Democrats that the administration is not handling this situation very well. They cannot be accountable for these children. They are children. Is it going to bring the immigration to the table? I'm not so sure about that, but certainly it's putting it back in front and center for America. This is something that the administration has shown is very important to them.
Well, the administration has also talked about this being a deterrent, saying if you bring your children here illegally, you may get separated from them. You know, they see it as a deterrent. Isn't that so?
Absolutely. Jeff Sessions said it very clearly earlier this month when he announced that they would be doing 100% prosecutions. He said very pointedly, he said, if you come to the United States illegally, if you bring your child, you will be prosecuted, and therefore you will be separated from your child. So this is absolutely a very clear message to those south of the border that these are the consequences if you come here illegally.
So where does this policy go from here? Can we expect any change due to the pushback? A lot of people are very upset about this, and you have to admit the optics are terrible.
I think you're going to see quite a bit of pushback. I mean, look, the Obama administration had threatened similar things in the past, separating mothers and children. They were detaining families in family detention centers. They didn't go all the way and start removing children from their parents. However, that was brought up in the courts, and I fully expect that advocacy groups are coming together. They're already talking about how to address this, because using it as a deterrent is something that will come up in the courts. There's no question about that.
Absolutely. All right, Franco. Lastly, the president fired off a series of tweets on the Russia investigation, despite saying he had to focus energy on other things. He accused Democrats of meddling with the midterm election. So is this the last effort to reframe the conversation?
It's certainly an additional effort to reframe this. Look, we've always known that this was often a big part of this was a debate in the court of public opinion. What Trump is doing is showing his hand that he is making this a political battle. He continues to hit Mueller. Trying to knock his credibility, knock the credibility of the investigation. And look, from a political standpoint, he's the only one hitting. Mueller's not hitting back, and it's having an impact on approval ratings. If you look at GOP approval ratings, some of the latest show that Mueller and the investigation those approval ratings are falling. So look, this is a battle that's going to be waged politically. We've talked about on this show, CBSN has talked quite a bit about how this is going to come down to Congress having to do something. The president is unlikely to be indicted. Therefore, it's going to come up to Congress, and Congress is going to want to listen to public opinion, whether there's an impeachment, scenario in the future.
So
this is going to be a pattern.
public opinion matters. Public opinion in this matters. All right.
Absolutely.
Well, Franco Ordonez, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.